Astros doing, Beto?
Oh, no.
Pretty good. Doing pretty good. But our congratulations to the Nationals after last night.
Well, Beto, we're a little concerned that we understand today you are going to be talking about confiscating the bats from the New York Yankees, especially Aaron Judge.
Here we go.
Without just kicking down the doors. So that, of course, leads us into the question, of course, that you talked to with Mayor Pete last night. Tell us about your plan on the confiscation of guns, which obviously many believe is unconstitutional. Also very concerned that it plays right into the hands of Republican candidates.
To be clear, I'm not talking about confiscating anybody's guns, but I do think that for those weapons of war, AR-15s, AK-47s, these were designed and sold to the militaries of the world to kill people on a battlefield, and there are more than 16 million of them in America. And we've seen the devastating effect that they can have in Dayton, Ohio, or El Paso, Texas, or Odessa, not too far from where I live. Those must be bought back, or else each of them are an instrument potentially of terror in this country. And it is literally terrorizing and terrifying people throughout America. More than 80% of Hispanics in Texas fear that they will be a victim of a mass shooting attack like the one that we saw in El Paso, Texas. But, Joe, that's just part of a larger plan to reduce gun violence with universal background checks, red flag laws to stop someone who has a firearm that may harm themselves or someone else, and then ending the sale of these weapons of war to our fellow Americans. I think combined doing all of that, we will significantly reduce gun violence in America and save thousands of lives every year.
So, Congressman, let me ask you, let's say I have an AR-15. I bought it legally 5 years ago. I'm a law-abiding citizen. You want to buy it back as President of the United States. I say no. You give me other incentives. I say no. I bought this legally. I'm keeping this. I live on a ranch. I need it for protection. What would you do then?
First of all, I wouldn't concede the point on following the law. I don't know you well, Joe, but I know you well enough to expect you to follow the law, even if it's a law that you disagree with. I think it's one of the things that distinguishes us as a country. We're a country of laws.
Okay, but let's just assume that there's a rancher in Texas that says, I'm not going to do this because this is an unjust law and it's unconstitutional. What's the next step? I think that's what we need to concede, because there will be people that don't turn their guns back in. What's the next step for the federal government there?
Yeah, I think just as in any law that is not followed or flagrantly abused, there have to be consequences, or else there is no respect for the law. So, in that case, I think there would be a visit by law enforcement to recover that firearm and to make sure that it is purchased, bought back, so that it cannot be potentially used against somebody else. But my faith is in this country and in my fellow Americans following the law and listening to people who own AK-47s and AR-15s, who acknowledge, who concede they don't need it for self-protection. They don't need it to hunt. Its real, true purpose and use is on a battlefield. And I think that's important to acknowledge, because when you talk to the people of Dayton who